Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from Madison Realty Capital, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, AmTrust Title, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Capital One Bank, Sterling National Bank, Marks Paneth LLP, Meridian Capital Group. Additional funding has been provided by grants from Amarant Bank, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, B6 Real Estate Advisors, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Citizens Bank, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handro Properties Handler Real Estate Organization, Hodges Ward Elliott INC, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Catsimatidis Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Matone Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, RPW Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge NYC, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Merringore Family Foundation, and these friends. Lots of space in New York, new developments, all over the city. You see new office buildings. You see changes with Midtown zoning. You see other areas. So what's really happening in the office market today? So I've assembled two prominent real estate brokers and an owner to provide their insight on the office market in New York City. Okay, not New Jersey, not Hoboken, New York City. My guests today include Peter Saviuson, who is the Senior Managing Director and Principal at Cressa, Michael Gottlieb, who is a partner, a principal at Avis & Young, and last but not least, our owner, Gerard Nacera, who is the co-founder of HSP and the managing partner of HSP Real Estate. I should have put you in the middle, but your height was over there. So, you're the owner. How do you see the office market today? Lots of options, a lot of opportunities for tenants. Is it a tenant market or is it an owner market?
It's shifting. It's shifting right now. It's still a tenant market. The tenants' demands put pressure on us in different areas than we're used to. We find ourselves challenged with terms and the need to build. Smaller spaces, smaller plates, which is a product that we specialize in. Those 8 to 10,000 square foot floor plates, perfect for smaller businesses, which are the drivers of the New York City office market for the most part, like the autonomy of a single floor, and we provide it for them. And traditionally you build it, you'd either build it to suit or you build it on spec. And what we've seen over the last 5 years is more spec building, resistance to spec building, and now everybody jumping in the water, whether it's 5 to 10,000 square feet, people are spec building now up to 15 to 20,000 square feet, and some even larger, to get the activity.
So when you're building spec, you're taking money out of your pocket.
Correct.
You're building this space, and as you say in the word, it's speculative,
It's
okay?
completely speculative.
Hoping that these individuals are going to bring a tenant to this property.
But when you underwrite a building, you assign a certain amount of money towards a build-out. So although it's speculative because I don't have a bird in hand, I will never find a bird if I don't build it.
No question. How much money today does he have to give? How many months of free rent for him to get a tenant in today's market, as you see as the broker, Michael?
Well, tenants have a lot of options today because they don't seem to be focused in general on one particular part of town. And if you're out in the market with a tenant today, they're just as likely to look at space on the east side, on 6th Avenue, to go downtown. and get all of their options for comparison before they make a final decision. But what we're seeing is an interesting market over the course of my career, where the market seems to still be in somewhat equilibrium, where there's somewhat equal bargaining power. And while landlords are certainly seeing a lot of activity and there's a lot of leasing up of space going on in their buildings, they're still reaching out to tenants, they're still trying to make deals, they're still giving increased concession packages. You know, if we are in the market with a tenant, and I'm sure you see this too, you're getting a call from that agent. If you saw space, by the time you get back to the office, there's a message saying, hey, what do we need to do to get your tenant to consider our building? And so we're seeing concession packages between free rent and work that are really going north of 2 years in total.
Real estate technology has become very big. A couple of months ago, I had a company called Square Foot, I believe, on my show, who's basically a tech company or an aggregator of space, okay? They're a brokerage firm, but they call themselves a tech company. So you want small space like you're talking about over there. They try to broker it and they say that they're different. Are you seeing a lot of these tech companies competing with the brokerage community today?
They're starting to, they are, but I think that you know, a lot of what tenants expect today is services, and they expect to get a much deeper level of advisory services as well. And so the larger firms that have more infrastructure are able to provide those services, I think, a little bit better still.
My problem with some of the tech companies, they don't have the same competency level of quality of people who understand the market. They say, oh, Gerard has 4,000 square feet available in this building. You know, it's a place that you should go. But they don't really know the landlords. They haven't dealt directly with the landlords, and they're not that sophisticated with the knowledge. Have you seen that from these guys?
Most definitely. The tech tenants that we attract, right? And we do believe you buy with a specialty in mind. You target, we look for donut holes when we buy, meaning where's the pressure from the rents coming from our east, north, and south, what's changing, and then where can we find that redevelopment opportunity to appeal to a particular tenant base. As Michael had said, everybody's looking everywhere now. So instead of saying, hey, I bought a building in the garment center and therefore I'm going to be satisfying this particular niche, you have to create a product now that is going to satisfy a particular user group. So at 251 West 30th Street, our last purchase, we looked at this as a TAMI building, and we structured a TAMI building. So we create an environment that will make them happy. So you're bringing in amenity spaces. You understand how their space needs to be built out. They don't want to be in office buildings that their father would be in, and you make sure that you celebrate that with the exposed ceilings and the type of
the concrete
kitchens
floors.
And the concrete floors and the California kitchen. And California kitchen I bring up because it's important, because it's a meeting place. It has become, as tenant space, office space becomes a social environment as well as a work environment, and employers encourage that. Buildings have become service providers more than just, here's your office space, I'm providing you water, I'm providing you electricity, you're paying me my rent. Now I've got to create an environment that they're happy with.
Which is perfect because, I mean, you've done a lot of TAMI, and for my audience, TAMI stands for Technology, Advertising, Media, and Information Structure. You had the Twitter space.
Correct.
What were they looking for with 170,000 square feet?
Well, they were happy in their building. It was a renewal. But I think more applicable was Jerry's building. I put a suite company similar to a WeWork in the building, and they wanted cool, as Jerry was saying, that was something different in a part of town that was emerging, because he's close to Hudson Yards. So what does cool mean? Exposed ceiling, nice, clean, bright lobby, a bike rack, things that older folks never thought of is what the younger tech companies want.
Well, as a prime example to the same deal, we underwrote, and we're in the process of building our amenity center in our cellar, something we call the cellar. And we worked very closely with Peter's tenant as we were finalizing our design. And I had in there the typical, bike rack. I was kind of breaking out bike racks, cool showers, right? We thought that was good enough. And then you would have the kitchen, TVs, seating areas open for the tenants to go down and enjoy as they will. Benefit of the co-working space is they habitate it with the barista and they make it a different living environment. But I had a conference center down there, thinking that in the typical landlord that I can now find a tenant that may be a little tight for my full floor, but with a conference center, that this would allow them to make my building as a potential choice. His tenant came in, he goes, forget that, I need a yoga room. I'm like, a yoga room? So we ended up building a yoga room. And it was the best thing we've done because every one of my existing tenants, as well as the new tenants, radiate towards the yoga room much more than a conference center that would have sat there unused.
But what's happening with the law firms? Where are they moving? What type of space are they looking at these days, the professional services?
It's interesting because law firms traditionally have had big offices and lots of space per partner and per person, and we're seeing a definite shift in that, and it's been trending for many years now. In fact, a lot of law firms are moving, and one of the reasons that they do move is because they're able to consolidate and take less space. So typically what we're seeing today, and I think this is one of the ways in which tenants are pushing back against increased rents and higher loss factors, is really to take 20 to 30% less space, shrink some of the office sizes, and move to more open space, as you mentioned before.
I mean, I think the example of Milbank Tweed, who had been a Wall Street firm probably since the turn of the century, to move to the Hudson Yards was really a change, a different type.
Well, also there's a firm, Fragment Del Rey, that moved from 7 Hanover down on Wall Street, to your point, to 1400 Broadway, and it's mostly open. We're the project managers, and it's not a typical law firm layout. It's mind-boggling.
It's very difficult for them, though, right? Because they've got two schools within their four walls. You've got the older, profitable lawyers that are bringing in most of the earnings to the firm, expecting and wanting perimeter offices, secretaries, and all of the old standards. Yet to go and hire the best and brightest out of the law schools, you have to give them what they want.
I mean, there's
and
an
creating
example,
office space very
friends
difficult.
of mine, Friedman LLP, they originally were in the Garment Center years ago, probably 561 7th Avenue, which is now Times Square building. Then they've been at 1700 Broadway for many years, and now they're moving to Lower Manhattan. I said to them, to the senior partners, I said, you're moving to Lower Manhattan? I said, that's where our people want it to be. They wanted one floor where they could be in the former Brooks Brothers space. You know, they wanted 47,000 square feet on one floor. So you have to try to meet
and yet, and the price was right because
sure.
the incentives that still remain intact to go to Wall Street. So that's, at the end of the day, that still is what drives a deal.
But how do you build it? That's the challenge. And what are you building?
Right.
Are companies moving to Brooklyn and Queens?
I think there's a lot of activity in Brooklyn and Queens, too. I mean, it depends where. The TAMI companies, I think, are more likely to move there. I don't think you're going to see any law firms moving necessarily out of Manhattan because they need to be where their clients are, and I think just as much more of a traditional location for them. But there is activity with the shift still.
But not any, you know, my comment was really, you know, there's a spec office building in Williamsburg being built. It's a significant size space. And most of the people, when I do shows in Brooklyn, basically say, there aren't that many needs for 50, 75,000 square feet in Brooklyn, okay? There's needs for smaller space, but when you're talking about that magnitude of space, it's a different type of market over here.
Well, I mean, look, Industry City is in and of itself a successful project, and it has the critical mass now to become a destination retail location, and you know, you have companies moving there, but there are also some garment companies that moved there. Some TAMI companies have looked there as well, but it's a big project.
What do you see, with regard to the same question, are any of your tenants thinking of moving to the Navy Yard?
No.
No.
What's your thoughts of the Navy Yard, Gerald?
I love it because it's a value add play. So I think that the Navy Yard will have long legs over a number of years. I think that market is here to stay. I think it's a logical place where it's going to grow. I've underwritten, unfortunately, unsuccessfully purchased, or haven't purchased, many areas right around the Navy Yard. Opportunities, great ceiling heights, great bones. I agree, no large tenants are going out to Brooklyn right now, other than if it's a massive move. I like the location, I like the transportation, and I like what it will be in 5 years from now.
But if you look at Metrotech in Brooklyn, which is a little bit closer, Metrotech has very low vacancy. The retail is being repositioned, you know, at 3 and 4 Metrotech by Chase. So it's all of it, that's going to change too. And all of the development and the residential that's going up there is getting taken up. So in that part of Brooklyn, you're seeing a lot of good activity and you're seeing strength. And I think overall, I think it's a continuation.
We were talking in the green room about the co-working that it's here to stay. How do you see it as an owner? How do you see it as brokers with regard to tenancy and to other owners, their receptiveness and their willingness to do this, and as lenders lending money on it?
As an owner, I'm concerned not as to leasing them space, it's how much space I would lease for them in any of our buildings. And if you travel and follow sales, the tipping point where banks get uncomfortable with co-working space is somewhere around 35% of your rent roll. We're approaching it a lot like the dot-comer. It's here now, have no idea if it's going to have legs, so let's be very particular who we take and be very careful as to the percentage of exposure within the portfolio.
Co-working spaces now occupy over 7 million square feet in Manhattan. That's a lot. It's the largest occupier of space in the city, which has been great for the city, where you take a look and say, where's the next wave of demand going to come from? The financial services are shrinking, law firms are compressing into smaller space. It's actually filled a significant void over the last several years in terms of absorption, in terms of space. But as far as what happens over the next several years, I think one of the challenges that they may have is when space gets vacated by tenants that are moving into some of the newer buildings that haven't come online yet, you might start to see a little bit more space availabilities, and there'll be a lot of competition for it.
Or when their leases start coming up.
Yes.
And your thoughts?
I mean, co-working is for sure here to stay. I think that the landlords are making a mistake letting the tenants come into the building and taking and competing with them for now smaller spaces for their enterprise machine that most of the folks are building. So on small units, 5,000, 10,000 square feet, the tenants can now go to them or the landlord directly. I think it's a big mistake for a landlord.
What are we seeing, look at 6th Avenue. It was a sleepy area that nobody wanted to be on. And now look at what happened at Rockefeller and 1345 and 1330. We've seen it come back alive. Where's the next market going to come back alive? Is it Lower Manhattan, all the different parts of Lower Manhattan?
I started in Lower Manhattan in 1980, and that's always been an up and down roller coaster. So to answer your specific question, Lower Manhattan is iffy. As the markets gets challenged, Midtown, and if it prices out some tenants, they'll be forced to go downtown. But downtown is never a draw. I got to be downtown.
What happens to the small little accounting firm or the small nonprofit who really can't afford to pay high rents? Where can they go today?
They go to side street buildings. They'll go downtown. You look at the Garral family. They turned around 40 Exchange, if you guys know that building. And one of the guys in my office was showing the building. He said, "Wow, what a terrific building." That was always one of the worst buildings in New York City.
It's like 528th Avenue.
And now it's a beautiful building. So they'll go downtown, they'll go to side street buildings.
Speaking about that, you represent an interesting building, the Paramount building.
Yeah, it's a great building.
Great building. Unfortunately, I have a bias against Times Square. How's Times Square doing, and how's the Paramount building doing in general?
We've been really, really busy lately. I mean, we've leased up over the course of the last several years. We've turned over about 400,000 square feet of space there. We have activity now across the board on almost every piece of space throughout the building. And the tenancy has changed too. The tenancy has been significantly improved.
What type of tenants in there now?
Well, we still attract many of the theater company tenants, but we have some of the major producers in the building. We have some of the major ticket outlet companies in the building, and we moved the entrance to 43rd Street. And that was a big deal too.
Let's talk about what's happening with the Garment Center community today.
Well, obviously, with the P1 changing, it's freed up a lot of thinking. I mean, we touched on a little bit. There's been probably 10 years of, if not longer, ignoring the P1 in lease-up because tenants will like the space and they'll overlook the fact that it may not be conforming to some of the city's needs, and the city was overlooking it. Last piece was that when the P1 fell, now banks won't have a problem in lending. And it's going to be a challenge for some of the older families, which ties in a little bit to what you said, where'd those accounting companies go that can't afford to pay the rents. So you have several different types of owners in the city. So you've got the Paramount Group owners. They buy, it's a coupon kind of buy for them. They're going to maintain a high-level building, and that'll have a rental level that's equivalent to their product. Then there's going to be guys like me who come in and take the older garment buildings that we're getting $40 a foot in rent, put several millions of dollars into them, and raise the rents, and now they're getting 50, 60. Then you have the guys that Peter were talking about, those side street owners that are maybe the generational owners, the family owners that are happy with cash flow, and they're not looking to sell. So they don't need to invest the money into their lobbies. They are, if they're good, they're continuing to invest in their systems so the asset maintains its relevancy, but it then will have a lower base rent because it'll do net effective rents. So you'll take an older installation, I don't have to put money into it, I can rent it cheaper, and that's where that accountant is going. That type of owner is going to be challenged. We're going to have guys like me knocking on the doors, offering them money now that they were not able to get in a buy side because of the restrictions of P1, now will be coming in and flooding that market.
And there's plenty of landlords that don't want to invest the capital into a building.
Nor need to,
so they'll always get lower rents. They're happy.
I don't think that downtown is, not to disagree with you so much, but downtown is not as objectionable as a destination as you might think over the past
Oh, it's
several
changed
years.
dramatically.
Over 20 million square feet of space got leased downtown in the last 4 years from tenants that weren't downtown. So I don't think there's as much of a resistance to going downtown as there was when I
But
started.
Durst still has a lot of space at One World, okay? There's still a significant amount of space over
There is
there, which
space.
is not leased over there. What about properties in Harlem?
We don't do much work up there.
Same.
What about Flushing?
Not so much in Queens either.
So it's Manhattan-centric.
Manhattan and Brooklyn.
If you were a tenant today, what type of concession can a tenant get?
It's all driven on the lease.
Okay, so give
So
me a different...
a 10-year lease, by and large, 12 months, if you have a good credit tenant.
12
Free
months free rent.
Right,
Okay,
correct.
and
a
how,
nice work letter,
and how much money towards the renovations?
depending on the level of building, but say $80 to $100 a foot.
I think it depends on the credit of the tenant also and also the length of term as well. But you know, if a tenant is paying $70 or $80 a square foot, they can get at least $100 a foot in many cases or more in terms of concession packages from a landlord. And I think that when you add it together with the free rent, you get to somewhere between 2 and 2.5 years of total concessions on a 10 to 15
Where are we
year.
seeing the Park Avenue buildings today, rents on Park Avenue?
You know, Park Avenue is interesting because Chase occupies a lot of space now on Park Avenue
Right.
until they build their new building. So there's going to be a lot of space coming back on. But rents have pushed up on Park Avenue too, but it's not the highest price market in the city.
So the Plaza District is still the highest, would you say?
In individual buildings as well. I mean, look at One Vanderbilt where all the deals are being done in the 130s. If you go down to the Meatpacking District or Soho.
Right, the new
Okay, south.
Vornado building is probably close to 150, what they want over there.
Right.
You know, but it's a specialty user.
And look at Park Avenue South. That used to be such a weak corridor when we all started.
25, 30 a foot.
Right. You didn't want to show space there. Now, everything's a fortune, and there's no space. There is no space around there.
What effect is the large number of square footage taken by healthcare having an effect on the market? I mean, NYU took the entire building on 41st Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue as an ambulatory care center. And, you know, in the Boston Properties former City Corp building, I believe they're taking another 250,000 square feet over there.
You know, I think there's so much inventory being delivered to the market over the current cycle that's just part of the absorption.
They're just another player.
Just another tenant in the market.
Look at Health and Hospitals. Took all of, not all, several 100,000 square feet down at 7 Hanover with the Growls repositioning that. We had a tenant for 200,000 feet, and we got pushed to the curb for Health and Hospitals.
In your previous life, you were with Hemsley, who had significant amount of property in, as we would say, the apparel, footwear, textile market. Who's renting space over there on the main streets, not the side street of the small property over there? Are we seeing the advertising agencies?
Advertising, law firms. I mean, it's now open to everybody because the rents are attractive. They fixed up the buildings, getting back to something you said, Jerry. Their owners are now fixing up the buildings and spending millions of dollars. So it's an older building, but the infrastructure is relatively brand new.
And the transportation, don't
Right,
don't
it's
forget.
ter-
I mean, there's
it's
still
terrific.
some basic elements to real estate that don't change. And transportation, the golden triangle between Penn, Port, and Grand Central, you can't go wrong.
Right,
as
and
a
I
tenant.
think that's, as we were saying before about 441 9th Avenue, which, you have Penn Station 1 block away.
Right.
You have the Port Authority 4 blocks away. It's a highly desirable location, okay? And if you go back and age ourselves, these were apparel buildings, where you had Kresge, operations
Right,
companies who really couldn't care, who were paying negligible rent. They had their warehouse in the building, and then they had the office.
Well, you look at Empire State Realty. They took over the Helmsley portfolio,
Right.
and they have spent millions of dollars changing the infrastructure of all their buildings and the tenancies. So 1400 Broadway, 112, they all used to be Garment Center, and now they're not.
What about the conversions with regard to the industrial properties being converted to office properties? Are you seeing much
It's
demand?
interesting. In Brooklyn, I think there's a lot of last mile industrial space being sought after, in
No,
particular.
I'm not talking industrial
the
space.
city?
I'm talking about the industrial which was converted to office.
Well, now that's the
Yeah.
cool stuff.
Right.
Right.
All the tech, the tech companies wanted to go there. Before that, it was the .com. They wanted wide open, massive space, drops,
High ceilings.
high ceilings, cement floor. So those buildings lend itself.
So in general, if I'm looking at my apple, we have the 2 over there, one supplied by your partner over there. The apple seems pretty bright and shiny. It's a good time for tenants. It's a good time for landlords. And
Correct,
as long as the
correct.
economy does well, we're going to continue to do well. I'd like to thank Peter, Michael, and Gerald, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.